Old cars never stop giving you trouble. Don't you hate it when you're sitting down to relax and you get a call from one of your children telling you they're stranded on a highway because the car that you built left them there? Well, that's what happened here. My 2007 Audi A4 with the 2-liter engine Quattro decided to leave my son stranded off of an exit on the highway. I had to get a tow truck to bring the car to me, and now I had to get my buddies, my 50-year-old buddies, to help me push this thing up the driveway so I can get it into the garage so I can take a look at it. So here we go again, Project Olaf.
Hey, and welcome back to Yogi's Garage. I am Yogi. I've got a special one for you now. For my loyal subscribers who've been around since the beginning, you will recognize this car right here as Olaf, my very first project on this channel. It ended up being a oil starvation issue with the pickup tube on the oil pump, as well as a failed catalytic converter. I bought this car during the pandemic, so I paid a premium on it, about $5,000, and it had at the time 140,000 miles on it. So that was the best price I could get. So if you remember, I took the engine out, rebuilt it, cleaned up the oil pickup issue, replaced the part, got it on the road, everything's great. Well, here we are almost 4 years later, and I wanted to give you an update on this car because as you saw in the video on the intro, this car did not get up that hill on its own. I will tell you, first off, the engine is fine. The engine's in perfect shape. I've taken the car out. I've taken the engine out, I think 3 times now. One for a particular issue and then another one for a oil pump issue with the balance shafts, if you remember that. I'll put a link up there in the corner so that you can check it out and see for yourself what that was all about. But now we're dealing with what looks like a failed transmission issue. I'm not convinced though, and let me tell you why. Each time I pulled the engine out and when I pulled the engine away from the transmission, the torque converter spit out ounces of fluid, and I'd put a little bit back into the torque converter and put it in the car and send it. I have a feeling that the transmission fluid pump is starved, and I may be able to get this transmission working again by adding more fluid. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, guess what? On the B7A4, the transmission fluid, based on what Audi is saying, is supposed to last the life of the transmission. There should be an asterisk on that, right? Assuming you don't take the engine out, assuming you don't have to replace any parts on the transmission, yada, yada, yada. Well, if you think about it, taking the engine out falls under that category. It clearly has lost enough fluid to where it will no longer go in gear, reverse, forward. In fact, as part of my troubleshooting, I put a computer on it and I can see that the torque converter is out of sync with the flywheel. And basically they need to be in sync. So if you put a monitor on it and you rev your engine up, the torque converter should match that rev. And if it doesn't, then you've got a pressure problem possibly, or a failed torque converter. I don't know what's going on, but I want to address the fluid issue first because that's going to be the easiest thing to tackle. Unfortunately, there's no filler on this thing. Like I said earlier, Audi expected this transmission to last the life of the car, and it has so far, yes, but they never addressed the issue of what happens when you lose fluid. And that's what we got to do, right? So it's not as easy as just jacking this car up into the air, filling up the transmission fluid like you saw me do on the Porsches, where it has a fill on the top and a drain on the bottom. The fill and drain are both on the bottom. Let me say that again. The fill and the drain are the same plug. Yes, I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, how the hell are you supposed to fill it if the filler is on the bottom? Well, after doing some research, looking on the forums and looking at other folks on YouTube that have had this same issue, they got to get this car up to temperature. They got to get the transmission fluid up to temperature, jack it up into the air, climb under a running engine, a running car, pull the drain plug, and when you pull it, if nothing drips out, it's low on fluid. Very scientific, I know, very scientific. If you pull the plug and nothing comes out, then you need fluid. And you put your tube in there and you pump the fluid in and you stop when it starts dripping out of the hole. I'm gonna show you all of this, I hope, in this video. I don't know what to expect. This is not pre-staged. We just got the car back in, as you saw in the video, a couple of days ago. I moved my Turbo S to the Shop Club in Houston, and I got a video on that coming very, very soon, if I haven't dropped it already. And so I have an extra spot in my bay, so why not fill it with Olaf here? My wife's, Yogi Mama's not happy about that because she's probably never gonna get her spot back in the garage. But don't tell her I said that. So the first thing obviously is to get this car up in the air. I got my quick jacks ready to go. They're working. We'll get it up in the air. We'll start the car, open the garage, let it run for a few minutes until everything comes to temp. And I'll bring you back and we'll talk about how to check your temperatures, what kind of tools I'm using for this project, and what kind of computer, right? Because not any computer can view live data. So if you're not sure what you need, check out my affiliates link below from Amazon, right? I used to have all of my parts and things that I used as line items in the description. Well, now I can just put a link in there and it takes you to the my Amazon storefront, and you can pick what you need from there. And one of those computers, the Top Don, will give you the information that you need if you plan on tackling projects like that. Or if you have a Carrera or a Turbo or any other model, that Top Don may be the one for you. Okay, no more jibber jabber. Let's get this car up into the air and start it up and see what the deal is. All right, you ready? Let's fix it.
All right, I think I found a problem as to why the transmission would not be working. Is the inside prop shaft. It pulled away from the transmission. And you can see it's really wet there too. So that's telling me that it leaked out a bunch of transmission fluid. And that may be why the car stopped operating. The other thing is these bolts look like they're too long. They're OEM bolts, but they may have pushed that base off of the transmission. It's entirely possible. So let me get this wheel off and see if I can inspect it a little bit further. I'll disconnect the prop shaft too and see if I can hammer that back in and see if it makes a difference.
Hey, I wanted to pause this video for a second and answer a few questions that some of my viewers have been asking me. And some of them are, hey, what do you use to detail your car? Or, hey, what kind of tools do you use in your garage every day? Well, luckily, Amazon has allowed me to build a storefront on their page. And I put the link down below in the description. And if you need cleaning supplies from like the chemical guys or tools from Tecton or Milwaukee, I've curated a bunch of those tools on that site, and everything you buy helps support the channel. So I really appreciate that. And it helps fund projects like this. Not by much, maybe a penny or two, but the more people that buy tools, because you need tools, if you buy them through my storefront, I get a little commission and it helps me and Yogi Mama. And also, please like and subscribe to my videos. I don't ask a whole lot, but now I'm begging. All right, now back to the show. First, I got to get that heat shield off, and that's an M6 Allen head on that one. And then the actual axles themselves, that's a 10 millimeter triple square. So I got to start with the shield, and then we'll go from there. So I'm pretty sure that was what caused that thing to pop out. You can actually see the scuff marks on the transfer case itself. Yeah, so that's the big issue, man. When those bolts are too long, it pushed it out. And I probably lost a lot of my fluid. So now I know what's going on. Now I know how to fix it. Let's see if it did any permanent damage. All right. I think I can just use my adjustable crowbar,
completely folded in, and then I can just give it a couple of whacks to get that thing back in. Then what I'll do, let me show you this here real quick. So here's the original bolt, right? And then here's the bolt that I got that's allegedly OEM. And it's a good 2 to 4 millimeters, maybe 3 millimeters too long. Well, that was enough to push up against the transmission. You can see some of the damage on the tip there to dislodge that plate. So I'm going to try to hammer it back in. You saw me tap it in a little bit. I'm going to check it with the other one and see if I made a difference. And I'm going to bolt it back in and send it and see what happens. Thank you, and good night. Oh yeah, I am moving. The car is fixed. So, what was the lesson learned there? Be careful where you buy your CV axles, and verify the bolts are the proper length. Those were OEM bolts. I reached out to the seller on eBay, he verified. But come to find out that those bolts that he sold me were indeed 3 to 4 millimeters too long. So he's updating his list, as well as me telling the buyers who buy these aftermarket CV axles and what have you to be careful and make sure you check the bolt lengths. Otherwise, you're gonna pop your flange out of your transmission. So this is awesome. Olaf is back in action. Thanks for watching Yogi's Garage. We'll see you next time.